Hey, everybody, welcome into Talking Tactics with Coach Gough. I am Coach Brad Gough, and this is your FC Cincinnati versus New York City Football Club recap show for Game 2 of the 2024 MLS Cup Playoffs. Cincinnati traveled to New York to play on the football club there on a baseball field, and they did not find the confines to be friendly. Needing a win to move on to the next round, they failed to get the job done, giving up 2 goals in the first half. They did find a sliver of hope in the second half when Luca Ornashano was able to score yet another banger to cut the lead in half, but the comeback attempt fell short, setting up a winner-take-all Game 3 this coming Saturday. What changed between Games 1 and 2 to make the match seem so much more depressing? How much did playing on a baseball field affect this team? We'll talk through all these questions and more, and we'll do it all with the one and only Justin Hoyte. Justin, how you doing today, my friend?
Not too bad. Let's just put it not too bad. Things have been better, I guess. But all in all, we're talking about soccer here, so that's life. And yeah, obviously disappointing for the team, disappointing result. As we thought we'd be talking about a victory and talking about to see who we're going to play in the next game. But I guess here we are, Coach. We'll break down the game, but all in all, I'm not too bad. How are you feeling today, Coach? I think that's the main question.
Yeah, well, today is Wednesday, listeners. We're not recording because yesterday my power went out, perhaps fittingly, because I kind of wish I could have stayed in the dark all night and maybe woke up without power too. But alas, we're back. We have power. We might not have a functioning democracy, but we have power. So let's just leave that there. Like you said, we're going to talk about some soccer, some football. We're going to get into it. And of course, it's a loss we're talking about, which doesn't exactly lift our spirits. But hey, they still
No,
have Saturday. They have a winner take all match at home at TQL Stadium, and we'll see if they can get the job done. Justin, before we break down that match, I want to let everybody know that we are once again sponsored by Apollo Home. For the month of November, Apollo Home is bringing back their $29 heating tune-up special. Temperatures here are falling faster than the Columbus Crew. So don't wait. Call, text, or book online today. But before you do that, and while you have your phone out, head on over to the socials and give us a follow. I'm at FC Cincy Tac Talk, and he is at Justin Hoyte 32. And as always, you can drop us a note at Cincy Soccer Talk or in the electronic mail slots, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. All right, Justin, we had questions from producer Mike, Brett Sova, and others, but it kind of feels like the question from Rachel Rozelle summed it up best. We didn't look like the same team from Monday. What made such a difference? Justin, we're going to talk about some individual performers, lineup changes, and of course that field. But off the top of your head, when you think about those two matches, can you put your finger on the pulse of like maybe the biggest thing that was different between the two?
I think I put a tweet out about it, and I would say the lineup for NYFC, yes, playing on a baseball field helped them. They've done it before. They're used to it, so that's different. But I would say I felt that they put out a more attacking lineup than what they had in the first game, which kind of showed early on in the games. And I felt the big difference, well, especially the first half, was the right back. His name Illich, or I'm not sure his name, but I feel like
Lunch.
he was the one that I would say game changers, but he was the main change I felt that really impacted and helped them early on. So I felt that kind of put them on the front foot and made them attack more. And I felt like it was hard for the team to try and stop that. So I feel that was, I would say, the changes that NYFC made. I felt that was uh, my main thing that I saw the difference between Monday. What about
Yeah,
you, Coach? You're seeing it from a coach's point, looking at the two games, summing it up, looking at it, watching one game, then watching the other, not just once. How do you see, and what did you see different from the first game to this game, and what can be done now? Obviously, going into the third game.
Yeah, so I think there were a lot of little things. I think the lineup made a difference. You're right. They're right back against Yamil Assad. It completely neutralized him, not because Ilinic is a good defender, but just because Yamil Assad couldn't get going forward.
Mm.
But Tim H had a thought and said, same issue as all season, FCC starting slow. And I actually didn't think that was the case.
No, I
My
didn't think they did.
biggest yeah, my biggest comment on this game is this, Justin. It's that goals change games. And
100%.
FCC made the big mistake that changed this one. Through the first 20 minutes, they looked pretty good. They had
That's
this
what I
going
thought.
where they didn't really press all out. They kind of had just a high line of confrontation. Like they would stand when the goalkeeper had the ball, kind of like
Mhm,
maybe 25 yards out and just stand and wait.
mhm.
Like, hey, pass the ball, and then we'll press from there. They use that small baseball field to constrict space. And they had a few bad giveaways, but they had some pretty good scramble defending. There was a really bad Buka turnover early on that led to Cheeto having to make a really good tackle in zone 14. A bad Obi turnover in the 11th minute leads to Cheeto having to head the ball out for a corner. There's one in the 9th minute where so talk about them not starting too slow. There was a play in the 9th minute where Obi won the ball with like a thundering tackle, and the ball falls to Assad. He plays the Lucho, who has a quick little 1-2 with Kubo, and then plays Orshano in behind the NYC back line. Freeze comes out and makes a big save. Orshano's probably offside anyway, but the point is through that 20 minutes, Justin, the game was very even, and I might even say
Yeah.
tilting a little towards FCC.
Mhm.
But then in the 22nd minute, New York City scored. So I say let's get right into talking about that goal, and then we'll talk
Yep.
after that about how that changed the game. So I'll
Mhm.
describe the game goal and then get your thoughts. The ball was on the NYC left and swung pretty slowly to the right. And as the ball is played to that right back that we talked about, Ilinic, Assad closes. But Ilinic plays a one-touch pass past him into their right wing and then just takes off. And he runs right by Yamil Assad and he gets the ball right back. Then Ilinic plays it centrally to Martinez, who had peeled off the back line in that zone 14 area. Remember, zone 14 is just off the top of the box where the D on the top of the box is. And Martinez just one touches it right back into Ilinic, who's continuing his run. And then Ilinic plays it one touch right back to Martinez, continuing his run, and it's an easy finish from there. It really was just a series of one touch passes and running,
Mhm.
and FC Cincinnati just not following those runners. Justin, a lot to break down
100%.
there, but what did you see in terms of the biggest pieces there that need to be fixed heading into the next match?
I mean, I would just say, as a defender, not to get beat on the 1-2. And then once you do get beat on a 1-2, I would just say it's just Assad's recovery run. Yes, he did try to get back, but I feel like, if you can't get back, you just try and get back as fast as you can. If you can't get there, you just got to keep running back. I felt like he kind of slowed his run down, not expecting the ball to go to Illich there, but it did carry through. And then I would say that once that ball is cut back or got to the corner there, you can see that some of the FC players were gradually getting back, not bursting the gut to get back on the edge of the box to be like, right, this is my man, or I need to get back there just in case he pulls a cut back in. So I feel they're the big takes, but I would say it was unfortunately good one touch play. Um, that fell to a NYFC player, but I feel like if Obi there or I don't know, Miles could have got back. This is nitpicking because obviously
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got to we'll break down the goals, but we have to break it down. We have to see why they scored. And I feel if Miles can, I think Miles is in a good position, but I feel like if he goes a little bit quicker, like we always say if, but if he goes a little bit quicker, I feel he can cut that out.
Yeah.
But on the edge of the box, if your two centre midfield players aren't inside the box when they're pulling the cutback in, and the NYFC players free in the middle of the goal, he's going to score.
Well, you
So
talk
I'd say
about
they're my
Justin.
biggest three.
You talk about often not letting the defender see your numbers, right? Not being square to him. Well,
Mhm.
Miles
Yeah,
Robinson
you can't.
turns and faces the ball and leaves Martinez
Mhm.
staring at those numbers on his back. I think if Miles Robinson stays open to the field where he can kind of see Martinez and the ball, then maybe he doesn't drop so deep. And two, maybe he closes on Martinez quicker and, like you said, cuts that out. So I do think that is, again, nitpicking because it's like a defensive technique thing and the breakdown shouldn't have happened to begin with. But I think that goal was preventable. I also that first pass that Assad comes rushing out, Ilinic puts it by him and then just takes off. Yeah, Assad doesn't
Yeah,
really
1-2, yeah.
try to keep up with him. It's like
No, that's
he
what I'm
kinda
saying,
tries to
yeah.
get in his way, like, maybe I can bump him off his route or something. He doesn't really
Yeah,
turn and
yeah,
run. And that's those are the kinds of things that as a coach, I'm just like, that's inexcusable. You're in a playoff game and you don't want to track that
mhm,
runner. It's like I understand there's a mistake that happens if you don't track him immediately and then you're chasing. But if you just don't track him at all, like that's a problem for me as
yeah,
a
yeah.
coach. So
And then
that's
me
where I
as well on sorry, coach, on that one as well, on the edge of the box, I mean, I've just freeze framed it as he pulls a cutback. Lucho is actually the closest player
yeah,
to the goal scorer. I know he's not naturally a defensive minded player, but in this instance, I think he's ball watching instead of watching the man. I feel like if he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is this man, I need to get there," I still feel he upsets the shot and might the guy might not score. But in that instance, I think he's just ball watched, just thought, it's not going to go there, and it's ended up, in the
yeah.
back of the net. But I feel like if you then in that situation be like, no, I need to get to a man rather than watching the ball, I feel that goal is prevented, and we're
Yeah.
talking about something different. I
And we
think a
can't
different
let
situation in
Obi
the game.
off the hook there either because Obi is
No, of course
also
not.
standing nearby Lucho
Hmm.
watching the ball, and Obi is the
Hmm.
defensive-minded player.
He's a
He should
defensive
have
minded
been
player, yeah.
seeing that player in the box, but he's watching the ball as it gets in deep, not turning his head and finding who he should pick up. But after that goal, Justin, FCC just didn't settle back down, at least not until
No.
the second half. It was like a boxer that takes a punch and instead of bouncing back off the ropes and swinging back, just kind of ducks and covers and waits for the bell to ring to end
Mm.
the round. New York City actually took the intensity up a level with that goal.
Mhm.
Home crowd behind them. They're up 1-0, and FCC kind of panicked. You started seeing a lot of desperate defending, a lot of bad turnovers. Um, do you think that goal stunned FC Cincinnati, or were they kind of settled and fine, but New York City just got really ramped it up? Or am I reading, or maybe neither, maybe both? Am I reading too much into that moment?
No, I feel NYFC definitely ramped it up a bit. And for the most part, I think leading up to the half, I felt like Cincinnati didn't know what to do. And I felt that that goal gave NYFC another win to be like, you know what, we sense we can get another goal here. We're on top. Let's push the pressure. Let's pressure, pressure, pressure. And what happens, I felt with Cincinnati is that they didn't then know how to play against that. It's a smaller field now. Now, how do they play against it? I felt like NYFC put more pressure, was making it difficult for
Yeah.
FCC to play. And even when FCC tried to go longer, because the pitch was narrowed a bit smaller, it was just running through or it was going to
Yep.
their players. So they didn't get a break in that sense. So I felt like NYFC was on top leading up to the half and obviously leading up to the next goal. But I just thought they really applied that pressure and was like, you know what, we've got one, we can go and get another one. I feel like Cincinnati dropped a little bit of their head and been like, right now, what do we do, kind of thing.
Yeah, and, like, that's why I started off by saying goals change games because momentum in
100%.
soccer is real, and especially when you're playing on the road on a pitch that is small. When that home team really gets that energy and that belief and starts really flying into
Yeah.
every tackle, like you said, then they just couldn't take a breath, they couldn't get settled, and they didn't have another meaningful offensive moment in the entire first half, and instead, you referenced it, NYC doubled their lead. So this was a free kick goal, but I want to talk a little bit about the play leading up to the free kick because I think it's indicative of what we're just talking about. New York City has the ball, and Buka wins it in midfield and plays it forward to Orishano, but it's really tight space. Orishano's like in the center circle, but in his own half. Orishano has the ball tackled away. The defender slides and tackles and wins the ball, but it pops out to Buka, but then right away, the midfielder, Keaton Parks, comes in and slides and tackles the ball away from Buka. And in this case, Parks is not only sliding and tackling the ball, he stands up and has the ball in his possession, and then starts to dribble. And that's when Obi comes in to try to win it back, and the ref calls a touch foul, which I do think it was a touch foul, like if a foul at all, but neither here nor there. The point being, that intensity, the center back to tackle Orishano, the midfielder Parks to tackle Buka and to win the ball, and the fact that that tackle happened and it wasn't Buka, going strong through that challenge and maybe losing it, but making the defender a little worse for the wear. It was Parks being able to
Mhm.
tackle that ball and stand up and walk away. Buka might as well have just like put a little post-it note on it, "Dear Keaton Parks, this is for you," and then walked away because it was so easy for Parks to just win that ball. That intensity, Justin, as a team leader, if you're out there and you're noticing your team losing tackles and things, what do you do as a team leader? Are you the guy who's like, all right, I need to go win a tackle to get the team fired up? Are you having a word with players? Are you just trying to take care of your own business and hoping they sort it out? Because this is one of those moments where I can't help but feel like FC Cincinnati missed Matt Miazga or Nick Hagland just a bit.
Yeah, and why you say you miss them is because they're someone who would upset the rhythm of the other team, or they would do something. They would be one of the players that make that tackle and be like, right now everyone's like, okay, like he's made that tackle, we're in and behind him. We're going to make the next tackle. So that's another leadership way, and players following by example. Um, I would be vocal talking to players like we need to win more tackles. We can't shy out of tackles. If we're going in for a tackle, let's make sure we win them. If we don't win them, let's try and win the second ball. But yeah, you can definitely see that they do miss, someone like Matt in the side, in the back line there, just for certain. I'd say throughout the season and through certain moments like this, with his leadership and just the way he is. He's a nice player, but horrible player to the opponents, if you know what I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
Players hate playing against him, but our team love him.
And Justin, that's the thing. Every team that I've been on that has been successful in those moments, any team that I've coached has had a player that in that moment either takes a yellow card or
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
real close. And so I'm not
real close. And
advocating that
he's
you
one of
don't
them.
want these players to play on cards. You want them to be professional and all of this. But I can't help but thinking, man, if a Miles Robinson just comes up and just like clatters somebody, not within shooting range, how much is the team like,
Yeah,
oh,
I know what you mean.
Miles
Yeah,
is
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Miles is here. Like you said, let's back him up.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, uh, so let's talk a little bit about the goal. It was a
This is
freaky
unlucky.
goal. It's a free kick. Teenage Hadebe is in the middle of the line that's set about at the 18, and he doesn't have anybody to mark. Like you can see he's standing there. The ball is swung into the box. It's not a particularly good ball. In fact, if you freeze frame it, FCC has Teenage Hadebe, Miles Robinson, and Cheeto Awaziam all closer to the ball than any NYC player. Any of those three could have headed away. What happens is Hadebe jumps and whiffs on the header. Miles kind of crouches and doesn't, I guess, see it coming through. And so it just hits off his head and then just pops up to the back post for Thiago Martins like an alley-oop dunk. And Thiago Martins dunked that ball into the back of the net. Easiest goal he'll ever score. Instead of breaking down this goal, because you said bad luck, what I want to know from you is obviously there's miscommunication between Teenage and Miles. We don't know if Miles called the ball. We don't know if Teenage called it and missed it. But can you talk about responsibilities when you're in a back line on a free kick like that and how this goal maybe never should have happened if players kind of understand the framework of what they're supposed to do in that defensive setup?
I mean, looking at it, Coach, I feel like the team has done their defensive duty. If you look at every player is in, I would say, the right position. The only thing we can say is on the back post where the ball ends up, he's free. Now looking at it, that should never happen. There should be never be a player on the opposition side free, open, especially on the far post. So that's where that needs to be looked at. Other than that, I feel like everyone's in the right position. The only problem here, and what happens a lot in games, which some people see it, I don't see, is that Hadebe actually misses the ball. He actually misses his header, whether it's a missed
Yeah.
time header or he missed the flight of it. So Miles is actually second nature has gone to duck underneath it because he's thinking, oh, Hadebe is going to head this. He's just ducked. Sometimes you duck. I don't know why it's ducked. And it's just hit him on the head, basically.
Yeah.
So I feel other than that, their responsibility is a defense, a set up right. It's just the back post needs to be taken care of. And we've seen this, a common theme happening at the minute is that a lot of players, instead of marking a man, they're turning and ball watching. And they're losing track of players. And
Yeah.
now this is, happening more and more. And I'm seeing it more happening is that they're happy to ball watch rather than mark a man and watch the ball.
Yeah. And that
But
was
yeah,
Obi.
it's the far post that you need to see.
And that was Obi who left Thiago Martins. But the one thing I will say in terms of roles and responsibilities as a coach, and again, I recognize this is easy to talk about on paper. When you're out there in the game, it's more difficult. But I would rather my center back, Miles Robinson, scream that that's his ball and actually go and foul Teenage Hadebe trying to get it because Teenage Duck tries to get it too, rather than for him to be passive and be like, oh, Teenage is going to win that. Even if Teenage wins that header, he's falling backwards, he's jumping backwards, it's going out for a corner kick, or it's going just like not very far out of the box. Miles is in a position where if he screams that that's his ball and he could attack that through it, he could have headed it to midfield. I mean, he's standing ready to just like explode through it. And so as a coach, I'm talking to my defenders and saying, we don't want you to win the ball falling backwards. Now, I'm not saying don't go for it, but I am saying if you can win the ball going forwards, you scream that that's your ball and you go win it, and you just assume your teammates are going to get out of your way. And if they don't, you know what? I'll take that rather than what I call this is a goal of passivity by Miles. Miles Robinson was passive there. He thought, like you said, oh, Teenage is going to win this. So he goes to duck, hits off his head. So I don't blame him for the header because Teenage whiffs, but I do blame him for not being aggressive and being like, I can clear this ball and go get it.
I have a question, Coach. If you think if that's Hagland or Matt Mialska going up for that, do you think if they was in Miles' position, do you think they're going to clear Hadebe out of that situation and take responsibility and clear that away? Or do you think they're going to? I feel they do.
Absolutely. I think that's the kind of player they are.
If it was Matt or
both of those guys are take responsibility.
In there, they would go.
Yeah, they're both take responsibility.
They're going to win that.
Exactly. They're like, if I can win this ball, I'm going to. I don't care who else is there. If I can win it, I'm going to. And Miles doesn't really seem like that kind of guy, which fair enough. He's a really good finesse defender, 1v1 footwork. So I get that, but that is something. And I thought that would be Teenage Hadebe would be like, he's going to bring the thunder to this back line, maybe even Cheeto, but it just worked out that it needed to be Miles in that moment. And so, like you said, bad luck. You win some, you lose some. Justin, we're going to talk about the second half next, but first, I want to let everyone know about our other show sponsor, Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. You want to help Justin and I stay active and injury-free, you can encourage us to keep on going through all this by getting in touch on the socials. I am at FC Cincy Tack Talk. He is at Justin Hoyte 32. If you have questions or comments, you can get at us there or send us a note to feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Justin, the first question that I have for the second half is, can we even take that much out of it? The performance was better, but FCC was pressing for a goal on the road. New York City was kind of content to sit back and play really direct, a ton of long balls. We had Santos come on for Assad and Kubo shift to the left wing back just 10 minutes into the half. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Do you see a lot that we can take out of it tactically, or was this more like this was a half of desperation trying to get back into a game on the road where you're down by 2?
No, I feel it's a sign where they needed to get back in the game. They needed to put another attacker on. They needed another attacking threat, a different dynamic to try and unsettle NYFC's defense, try and get back into the game. And it worked, I would say. But NYFC were definitely comfortable sitting back there and trying to let FC try and break them down. But to be honest, Coach, I actually felt Santos done all right when he come on. As a coach, looking at it, when I saw the change, when I saw Kubo go to left wing back, now what's your thoughts on that? Obviously, that's Orishano's normal position. Kubo is more of an attacking player. Now looking at it, how do you see that played out? Because I was thinking, well, maybe Orishano is going to go to the left, and I think everybody was thinking Kubo is going to stay up top with Santos. So that's an interesting one, right?
Yeah, I think that it speaks to what we've talked about kind of all season, where Pat Noonan has kind of looked at things and said, where does Orishano do most of his damage? It's in this right half space, more like a number 10, or maybe a right winger who's come into the half space. Even a right wing back who's coming to the half space, almost like he has scored goals out of the left wing back position, but it's really taken some really creative running off the ball and getting in behind. And so if you're looking at a team and saying like, okay, that team is going to sit back, right? They're not going to push number forward. There's not going to be space in behind. Do I want my players who are really good at breaking that defense down out wide and on the wings running, or do I want them in the middle where they can affect play? So I think that's why I do think it was interesting. It shows kind of the lack of depth that it had to be Yuya Kubo to go back there, and that there wasn't another option, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing for me is even before that happened, the very first touch of the second half was like a direct ball, right? It was Assad hitting a long ball toward
Yeah.
Orishano, who's running in
Mhm.
behind. Matt Freeze comes out to clean it up. Then Kubo nicks it off Freeze and has the empty net. All he's got to do
Oh,
is get
yeah,
the
yeah,
defender in
yeah,
front of
yeah.
him. And I don't know if he mishits it or what. He hits it along the ground, and the defender kind of just turns and sticks a leg out, and it goes off of him. We talked about goals change games. Justin, do you fault Kubo for not even to be able to get a decent shot off there? And do you think maybe that's kind of why he was shifted back? Is like this guy's not going to score?
No, to be fair, coach, I think the defender made a good block. I think he tried to shoot, but the defender made a good block. Now, if he now tries to chip it over the player, I think that's a goal.
Yeah,
So that's where your game intelligence, your game knowledge comes into it. But I think if I was in that situation, I probably would have kicked it along the floor as well. You don't expect someone to slide in that situation. So I think it's only one or two players that would have tried to chip a long shot from there.
yeah. So that
But
was
no,
an
I don't
interesting
fault
one.
him.
But the
Mm.
reason why I bring that up is because then they get in behind again, this time on the left through Orishano in the 49th minute, but he hits his cross off the first defender. They continue to win the ball on the press and push forward. I thought they were
Hmm.
much better in this part of the second half, but when they won
Hmm.
the ball, they were completely disjointed. There was a moment in the first 5 minutes of that second half where Lucho picks the ball up in space on the left and is running with the ball at zone 14, exactly where he wants it. And he goes to pass the ball and passes it right to an NYC defender. It wasn't like he tried to split space and the defender made a good stretch. He passed it to him. Kubo is dribbling across the top of the box in the 56th minute, and he can either shoot or pass wide right to DeAndre Yedlin. And instead, he gets it tackled away for a turnover. There's a ball that's played right to Kubo on the press in the 59th minute, and he hits his first time pass in between Santos and Orishano. Neither one goes for the ball. It's a turnover. In the 60th minute, Lucho receives a line splitting pass from Miles behind the New York City midfield. Again, he's turning, he's running at the back line, and you're like on your edge of your seat, like, yes, he hits the first defender with the pass, and it's a turnover. The stats, Justin, of these front players who were supposed to make a difference were abysmal. Lucho lost the ball 35% of the time he touched it. Orishano, 38%. Santos made good difference, like you said, with his running and things, but he turned the ball over
Mm.
41% of the time he touched the ball. Kubo, 28%, which is still too high because he played most of the second half at wing back. So it should have been it should have been a better number. My question is, you look at this and you look at the second half and the intensity played with and the number of turnovers they forced. Do you think NYC did something particularly well defending, or was FCC just put on their heels in that first half and then just never really recovered?
Yeah, I never think they really recovered. And you're talking about we call it giveaways, losing possession, giving the possession away, and attacking third, not making the possession count, not ending plays with shots, giving the ball away in the final third. You look at it and think, well, this is another reason why the team hasn't scored more goals this game. There's a reason why the team hadn't won, and the reason why some people might say NYFC done something good, but I feel it was, I don't know, was it a lack of concentration? Was it the forwards not performing in this game to what we're used to seeing? Maybe everyone's allowed bad games as an attacking unit, but I still feel they still created one or two chances early on in the first half and sometimes in the second half that they could have really got back into the game. I just feel it's the bad giveaways in the final third that in playoff situations, coach, you got to make them situations count more times than not. And with these numbers, as the stats people look at it, the stats need to be a lot better if we're going to win the next game. That's for sure.
Absolutely, Justin. You were dead on there. The other thing I think is that once the team was down 2-0, And this could be worrying if they face another deficit in this playoffs, but it could also be like, well, it didn't happen until they were down 2-0. But they started to revert into some of those old bad habits where Lucho was dropping
Yeah.
deeper and deeper to try to get on the ball.
Hmm.
When he did get on the ball, he
Trying to
was
make
trying
things
to
happen.
dribble. Yeah, exactly. Trying to
Hmm.
play a hero ball, trying to make things happen, which meant then players stopped to watch him instead of making runs,
Hmm.
and things were really static. Last week, Lucho had fewer touches. We talked about this. He only had 58. This week he had 64. But last week, 74% of his touches were in the attacking third on Monday. On this match, only 59%. So he just wasn't getting the ball up there as often. And then when he was, people weren't moving for him because he was dribbling. Here's the other thing I want to ask you about, because this is, I think, actually just bad luck. How the game worked out, where they were attacking in the first half and when they were attacking in the second half. In the second half, when they were down 2-0 and they had to really push to try to come back, the left side of the pitch where they love to attack happened to be where that baseball infield diamond was. Did it look
Hmm.
to you like that side of the field affected the gameplay? Like when you just look at the field and see, like, did it seem like players were playing careful over there, slipping a little bit, maybe not playing their normal game when they were on that weird surface?
I feel there was a reason why NYFC attacked so well in the first half down that right hand side. In the second half, it was kind of all right. Well, we've got our goal. We can sit back now. We know how to play on this field. Um, Cincinnati like to attack down the left hand side, but having played on a baseball field, there is a difference. Difference in surface, different the way the ball moves. It is different. So, uh, I mean, you don't like to give excuses, but there is a difference, coach. Like, it,
Well,
it does
Justin,
affect you.
I want to hear that experience. We had questions from producer Mike, Rachel Roselle, Scott Day, all about that field. And the producer Mike hit it on the nail on the head when said, like, hey, talk about a time other than in America when you had to play on a pitch like this. And I think what he's getting at is the frustration that MLS, that's supposed to be a major league soccer league,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
top
I
in the
understand that. Yeah.
country, has you playing a playoff game on a
Mhm.
baseball pitch. Are there times, have you had to play on just a terrible pitch in other times when you thought,
Mhm.
like, this is not this is ridiculous, like, professional teams should not be playing here?
Yeah, I mean, we've played. I'd say not in the top flight. It's normally in cup competitions where, um, say like a Premier League team plays like a League Two or a conference team, and you go in there and the field is just boggy. It's muddy. It's not. When you're in the Premier League, the pitches are like carpet, like they are. Obviously at Cincinnati, and then you're going now to a game where they've purposely made the pitch like that. Like they've
Yeah,
not cut the grass, they've left it boggy, they've put whether they've put more water than it should be. Let's just put it that way, just to stop the team playing, just to stop us playing the way we like to play. And obviously, if you like to, the team that likes to play football on the ground, you can't on a boggy field. Everyone knows that. So that was a difficult situation. They also the pitch is smaller. That also takes effect. Um, but I've also been on a team where you know managers and staff have asked the groundsman to cut the grass a certain length and to water the pitch at a certain time, just so the ball moves a lot quicker and help the team, us as the attacking team, the way we play. And
yeah.
teams didn't like it because that was to our advantage. So we used the field to our advantage, and I've played the way you've used it to a disadvantage. But playing on a baseball field, I remember playing it. I'd say, okay, we're not talking about we're one trying to come away from America, but the first experience I ever had was playing at Louisville.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can we play on a baseball field like that? This shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be possible, coach. Now you're looking at an MLS. I don't think it should be possible, but it is that
Yeah.
like so you just have to try and deal with it as best as you can. I mean, Louisville was terrible, I must admit, but in a playoff game, this shouldn't be right.
Yeah.
There must be somewhere else that they could play.
Totally. And while I get like all of the things about home field and everything, that is a huge advantage for NYC, that
100%.
they play on a baseball field often. And then when other
Mhm.
teams come in, everything's a little bit weird. Where the crowd is weird. Where
Mhm.
the benches are is weird, and it's something they're
Yeah,
used
it's
to.
it's a different setup, yeah.
And in a game of fine margins, that makes a little bit of a difference. So hopefully that
Mhm.
bodes well for the series coming back to TQL. Ultimately, in this match, FCC just ended up looking really flat. The center backs ended up having to pick the ball up, and when they started to look forward to make passes into the midfield, there was just no movement. They ended up playing 30 long balls. Again, on Monday, they only played 18 in total. They played 30 in this match. And despite all of that, Justin, they still had a chance to cut the lead in half in the 65th minute. So let's talk about that goal because it was a banger. NYC goalkeeper
Mhm.
had the ball. FC Cincinnati pressed and made him play long. It's headed away by Miles, and Buka is able to get the ball, bring it down, and kind of play it underneath to Obi. So he's playing towards his own goal to Obi. Obi one touches it to the left to Kubo. And if you freeze it, because FC Cincinnati was pressing already, they had really good spacing in that moment. It might be the only
Mhm.
time in the whole match on that small
Yeah.
field they had good spacing. So Kubo plays it forward into the left half space to Lucho, who turns and plays it right away on a second touch into Sergio Santos, making a darting run through zone 14. He backheels it, Santos does, to Orishano, who's running in behind. Orishano uses that acceleration to get a touch on it as the defender lunges for it. He touches it through the defender's legs, skips by him, and then drills it into the roof of the net. Justin, this is repeatable stuff, right? This was good spacing. It was good, quick one
Mhm.
touch play. What did you see on there that as a defender makes you think, oh, I wouldn't want to defend against that?
I would say the positioning of Santos is one to stretch the field. And what I like is that in this situation, you've got two number 10s basically. I would say Lucho is in a great position in between two players, three players, I would say, in the pockets. You've got Orishano, who's also in the pocket, who no one, not neither have been picked up. And I feel these are the situation of moments that I feel that Cincinnati needed to make more of, and positioning wise, that these two players needed to be in these positions because they're hard to pick up. Like, who do you pick up? Um, and I feel from Lucho gets his opportunity to turn. I feel like Santos has made a good run, an effective run in behind, stretching the field. Okay, he didn't run in behind, but he's making a run to go in behind. Great awareness from him, and then Orishano does what he does best.
Yeah. And I just love with how quick and decisive they all played. Like
Hmm.
literally, Buka was facing away
Urgency.
from goal, lays it off. Obi plays it first time. Yuya moves it to Lucho. Lucho doesn't take more than two touches. He turns, sees Santos darting in, and passes it to him. Santos
It's a
doesn't
training
try
ground
to
goal.
collect it. He just knows if he can get it anywhere towards Orishano, it's going to be a chance. So just that decisiveness. All right, Justin, we actually don't really have a mailbag today, but I still want to take just a minute to thank all of our
Okay.
incredible supporters for downloading today's episode. Thanks for downloading and continuing to download. Thanks for listening. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for watching on YouTube if that's what you're doing. You can rate and review the show over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Coach Apple Podcast. It helps people when they search for FC Cincinnati Podcast. It helps us to pop up if we have more ratings and reviews. You can come become a supporter of Cincinnati Soccer Talk over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. My kids broke my microphone this week, so I need a new one. So all of that support helps with stuff like that. In terms of this show, we don't have a mailbag because we had a few questions, but not a lot. If you do have questions for us about tactics and coaching, if you want Justin's perspective as a player who has been there, done that, get in touch with us. You can add us on social media or drop us a note in the mailbag. But instead of the mailbag, I want to talk about two obvious changes that we saw in the second half. And we've already talked a little bit about it, but I want more thoughts, your thoughts on this, Justin. First, when Noonan brought in Santos for Assad and moved Kubo to left wing back.
Mhm.
Overall, when you saw that change, did you like it? Like, oh, this is different, and I like that. Or were you like, what are we even doing, guys?
No, I mean I like it, and why I like it is I think I've said before is that Orishano I feel is more effective higher up the field. Um, Obviously he scored his goal from there. I feel he's just more dynamic there. He gets on the ball higher up, and I feel he's more. I just feel he's more dangerous higher up. Less running to do, and he can be more explosive on the ball, especially on that right hand side as a dual 10. Sometimes he picks up that ball. So I like the move. I quite liked it when I first saw it. shocked at first because I thought, oh, Shano's definitely going to go left. But then when I didn't see him go left, I saw Cooper go. I said, okay, I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
How did you see that change?
I agree completely with you in that I first was confused and then I was like, oh, I like this. I like not putting
I
Warshano
like that.
back
Yeah, of
there.
course.
But
Mhm.
here's the thing after rewatching that I noticed. Maybe Assad was tired. Maybe he needed out, and that changes things. But if Assad could have stayed on, that first 10 minutes of the second half, we talked about it. FC Cincinnati was pressing. They were winning the ball. They weren't quite clicking, but they were winning the ball. Uh, Assad is so much better at taking up dangerous spaces from that left wing position in the midfield than Yuya Kubo. Yuya Kubo can do a job over there. I don't know that he's ever been effective, not offensively, not defensively. He just does a job, right? I'm not sure he's any better out
Mhm.
there than a guy even like Brett Housey or something. So if Assad could have
Mhm.
kept going and you wanted to get Santos on, I would have almost rather just brought on Santos for Kubo straight up, or Santos, and we saw this change later. We'll talk about it in a second. Santos for Buka and move Kubo into
Mhm.
midfield as a guy who can
Yeah.
get forward a little
Mhm.
more
That's
effectively
true.
out of that
Mhm.
position, something like that. I think if Noonan really wanted to mess things up, and go for it, he should have pulled out one of those center backs. So how about this? How about Santos for Teenage Hadebe or Cheeto and go
Change
into a back
formation.
four, something like
Mhm.
that. But alas, we got the change. I'm not sure it was super effective, even though I like that he tried something different. The second change I alluded to, Kelsey coming on for Buka in the 76th minute. So that put FC Cincinnati into more of a 3-1, the one being Obi, 4 with the wing backs and 2 midfielders, two forwards up top, Big Kev and Santos up top. Um, did Big Kev do enough in this match to affect the game for you as a sub coming on late when FC Cincinnati needed a goal?
No, because I still feel they was chasing the game. It's hard to come on as a player in that situation. I feel he was put up there to try and I call it cause havoc, and just try and get a goal. So it's hard to try and affect the game because um, it's just the situation of the game, and it's hard to come in and perform. I would say, um, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how to say it. How he done coming on. I don't know because it's just
Yeah,
coming on
a
in that
tough
situation,
spot.
coach, and you're basically coming on to say, right, we need a goal. You're going in. You're going to work off Santos. What can you do? So yeah, it was tough for him.
Yeah, and Big
Tough to
Kev
come on,
did have
especially for a young
one.
player.
Yeah, he did have one really nice play in the 79th minute where he received the ball in the box and Lucho came cutting through and he was able to kind of scoop it towards
Mhm.
Lucho. And Lucho tried to cut it back for Santos and it was put out for a corner. And on that play, Justin, I don't know if you remember this one, but a defender comes through. I think it was Justin Hack comes through after Lucho passes it and does that thing where you put your right leg out to block. And then when you don't get the block, you come through hard with your left leg like scissors tackle and cleared Lucho out. I thought that could
Yeah,
have
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
easily been a penalty, if not a red card. But again, we're not here to talk about the referees but I do think there were moments like that. And the reason why I say that is not we got screwed, the ref should have given a red card. It's just that FC Cincinnati had moments. They weren't completely inept. And off that corner kick, that's where the ball falls to Teenage Hadebe in the box with, I
Oh, how
think
did you not
nobody was
score that?
there. I think everybody left and went to the locker room and he was there at the 6-yard line with just the keeper to beat. And he hit it kind of right at the goalkeeper. Huge bummer there that he couldn't
How did you
finish
not
that
score?
chance. But you've been a center back up for a corner. Do you fault
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Teenage at all for not, or are
No,
you
I
just
don't.
like if he
I
scores
don't.
that, that's just bonus?
No, I don't. I don't fault him. I mean, he's got a good, I would say, a good clean strike on the ball. Yes,
And it
he's
was on
not
his weak foot too.
put his laces through it. Yeah, he has not hit it with his laces. He's not lashed through it, and it's gone over the bar. The keeper's made a save, so it's on target. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's done the best he could in that
Yeah.
situation. You just wish it would have fallen to somebody
That's the
else.
thing. You wish it fell to someone else, but he made the goalkeeper work. He didn't hit
Yeah,
it
he made
at
the
the
goalkeeper work. Yeah,
goalkeeper where the goalkeeper
mm,
could just stand. He had to
mm.
make a save.
Let's put
He
it down
made the
as a good
goalkeeper
save.
work. And it was a good save. We also saw Alvis Powell come in for DeAndre Yedlin with that Kevin Kelsey change. And man, I thought it really looked like Powell struggled to get up to the pace of the match. Uh, he turned the ball over several times in places when I think he usually doesn't. You talked about how hard it is to come in. Um, and then the two best chances of the match in that last part
Fell to him.
fell to Alvis Powell. There's an 87th minute. It's a long cross from the left by Lucho that falls through to Powell. He has time to like bring the ball down. It's still bouncing, and he decides to hit a volley from a tight angle and hits it right at the goalkeeper. And then 20 seconds later, Lucho rides a challenge in midfield, plays forward to Orshano. Orshano finds Powell running through the box on the right side. And this is the one that I think is tough because we talked about Hadebe working the goalkeeper. Powell fails to hit the frame here. Now he's trying to pick out that far post, so it's tough. But man, if he hits the frame, I think it's either a goal or the goalkeeper is pushing it out into the path of three FC Cincinnati players running through there. Mm-hmm. I think if he hits it, a yard inside of that near post or even, a yard and a half and doesn't hit it right at the goalkeeper, but also doesn't hit it wide, I think it ends up being a goal. Justin, you've been in that position. I mean, you famously were always open there. What is going through Powell's mind here? Is he like, hey guys, I'm a wing back, you can't expect me to make that? Or is he going to be like, man, I should have buried that?
No, as a wing back, you think you should have buried it. Sometimes you try and get a good clean strike on it, and it doesn't go in the direction you want. But it's good that he got in them positions. I would say the one that he controlled and had a bit of time, I felt like they're the situations where everything flashes before you and you're seeing goal before you even strike it, and you don't strike it well, and you don't score. And then I would say the second one was a great opportunity. I feel like you say, if he hits that, I would say towards the goal or towards the keeper palms that out and you've got a tap in. But I'm just happy he's got in them positions. But for me, I probably would have done the same thing, I'll be honest, if not hit it over the bar.
Yeah. All this to say, though, Justin, well, we talked about you have 90 minutes to win or lose. Win in advance, lose, and you have to play another 90-minute game. Yet, we talked about 2 changes that Nuna made. 3 subs, but 2 changes because Powell for Yedlin was like for like. Yeah. Does that to you say that FC Cincinnati simply doesn't have enough depth to really go on and compete unless their starting 11 comes out and does it? Or do you think that the lack of changes was more Noonan showing belief in the guys that he had out there?
I feel he's showing belief in the guys that he had out there. And you look at it, you can say the team looks like they don't have strength in depth, but they brought players on and they still had chances to win, to tie the game. You just look at it and say, what other attacking options is there that he could try and change and bring in to give you a different dynamic to try and get another goal back? Who else do you bring on? But then if you bring someone on, who are you going to take out? I think is my next question. If you was to bring another forward in, who do you then take out? Do you not put Powell in and put someone else? Do you put then Orishano on the right and put another forward in, play with 3 forwards? Do you then take Kubo out and put Orishano in the left? Like, how do you then change that to be a bit more attack minded in them situations? Because you can't take Kubo, you've already taken Bukarov. Yeah. You can't take Obi out because then you got no midfield. Do you then go for it and be like, you know what? We don't need 3 central defenders. We take a defender out and then put another player further forward, you said before, which might have to happen. So I think they're the things we have to weigh up and look at. But I still feel he had faith in the players that he put out there to do the job. I feel the substitutions were the right substitutions at the time to try and get back in it. But it'd be interesting to see now the next game. Do you think, coach, as a manager, as a coach looking at it from an outsider, do you feel he's going to stay with the same team? Do you feel he's going to change anything?
Yeah, I think that
if he's in a certain situation, is he going to make the same substitutions?
That's a great question. I think you have to roll the same lineup out there. I don't think anybody, we talked about the players that came on didn't do enough to be like, yeah, that guy needs to be out there all the time. Even Santos, who did a lot of hard running and made the goal partly on that, gave the ball away too many times. I think you roll it back and you try to recapture what you did in the first game where you created, almost 3 goals worth of expected goals, even though you only finished 1. And I think you rely, hey, if we're going to go far in this playoffs, it's that group of players that's going to have to do it. So we need to get them clicking and hitting on all cylinders. and I think you hope you come through it healthy. The other thing we saw in the second half is the wing backs pressed really high and kind of stayed higher and tried to rely on those center backs to just get the ball to them more, which meant there was a lot of space to run in behind. The center backs were put in 1v1 defending a lot with runners running in behind them. Did pretty well, other than Cheeto giving up the penalty, which very end of the game, everybody's tired. Kubo is standing like 10 yards as Santi is like dribbling with the ball. And he's like, you got this, Cheeto? Cool. I'm just going to chill over here, man. You got it. You let me know if you need me. So I don't fault him for that. But like we said, Justin, ultimately, something that I find extremely heartening, good, is that even though there was a 3-1 loss and the team didn't play particularly well, and that puts them into a game where they have to win on Saturday, they could have easily tied or won this game if Pau or Hadebe could have finished one of those chances. They showed some fight down the stretch, and they don't have to play another match on a baseball field for the entire rest of the season.
And they're at home.
Yeah, Justin. So to wrap this thing up, here's my last and final question. You have been here. You're going into a do or die game, a win or your season's done game. But it's at home and it's against a team you've already beat at home. What is the environment like in the locker room? What are the veterans talking about and saying to the young players? What's the coaching staff? What is the message this week to the players?
We've been there. We've done it. We've beat them at home in the first game. We know what we're capable of. And let's go out. It's a do or die game. Leave everything on the field, leave everything on the pitch, and go out and give it your best shot. Give 110%, and we'll get the victory. We know we can beat them at home. Go out and show it and prove it and enjoy the game.
Yep. And then afterwards, you and I will be here to break it all down, win,
celebrating,
lose, or draw. And now if the team wins, because Columbus lost, FC Cincinnati gets a home game, another home game, another TQL game. So fans, show out, show strong, but don't boo the ref. Just build the team up. That's my ploy. I know it won't happen, but my plea
bring the energy like they do.
Exactly. Justin, anything else before we get out of here, man?
No, Coach, I'm excited for this next game now. You need to send the positive energies, the positive vibes to the team, and
it's nice and early.
Stadium's going to be rocking. It's great. It's early again, Coach. I can't believe it. I'm buzzing with that. Early again, nice game. I don't have to fight my sleep off, so I'll watch the game now, and I'll be cheering for the team. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'll be in attendance. Shout out to Eric S., who said hello to me at Standard Beer, my spot that I go to. So listeners, if you see me out and about at the game, feel free to say hi. But as for that is it for this episode of Talking Tactics with Coach Gough. If you want to do us a huge favor, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/coach, Apple Podcasts to rate and review the show. Hit that thumbs up on YouTube. All the things you do to let us know you like what we're doing. Other than that, just thanks for being here and listening. Thanks to producer Mike for making this show audible. And thanks, as always, to my incredible co-host, Justin Hoyte. I had fun today, and I'm hoping you did too. This is Coach Brad Gough reminding you that soccer is a privilege. So whether watching, coaching, or playing, don't forget to smile.